Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Ella and in today's video I will be sharing a small amount of my mental health story with a chronic illness and chronic pain. So I just feel like I need to put a disclaimer. I will be talking about depression, anxiety, chronic pain, medical things. I will not be putting any photos or anything. I will touch a bit on death but not suicide or anything like that. So yeah, if that's not the kind of thing you want to watch, then thank you. I've got loads of other videos down below, so go check them out. But yeah, I just thought I'd better put a little disclaimer before I start. So basically, for those of you who are new here, hi, my name's Ella. I'm a disabled student in Cambridge and I have lived with disabilities and medical conditions since I was born, but it spiked when I was about 14, 15. So I was born with microphthalmia. I'm blind in my right eye, and I kind of feel like that's where I need to start in a way. So I would say that my mental health has never been perfect. It's never been, I'm on top of the world, I'm fine, I'm great, I'm good, everything is like cloud nine. However, I wouldn't say that I started to feel sad or depressed or anything like that until I was in high school and things like that. However, I do acknowledge that bullying and things like that did take a toll on my mental health and how I perceived myself, and that never really led to any feelings of depression. It just made me very recluse and scared more than sad, I guess. But I didn't ever feel those levels of depression that I did when I was in high school. So everything was kind of, I would say, fine until I started getting ill in year 10, so I want to say I was 14, 15. I'm not too sure, I can't remember what exact age I was. But it never really was an issue at first. I had depressive episodes before I got ill, and I was very aware that I was different to other people because of how I looked, and I was kind of a bit worried that people were going to start making fun of me because I was dyslexic, and it was becoming very obvious at that point. However, when I really started to notice that my chronic illnesses and chronic pain was affecting my mental health a lot was when I kind of had my first almost like attack of pain that was more than I'd ever felt before. It was very scary to me, and I didn't know how I should feel in that time. I was having so basically I had palpitations for about 6 hours during the day when I was at school, and then throughout the day my pain got worse and the palpitations wouldn't go away. And I remember laying in my bed and my mum could hear me crying, and she came through and asked me what was wrong. I was just in so much pain, and she said, how does it feel? And I said that I felt like a dragon. And I know that seems silly, but that was the only way I could articulate how I did feel, and it was this burning pain for where it feels like I was breathing, so every breath felt hot and it was painful. And I remember for a split second I thought that the pain was so bad that I was going to die, and I thought that that was it, because I'd never felt pain like that before, and it was so startling, and my heart was beating so fast and it was palpitating to the point where it took my breath away. And it was very scary and very made me very aware of the fact that I wasn't in control of my body. I didn't know when that was going to happen. I didn't know who was going to be around me when that happened. Like, what would have happened if I had been like on a bus or something, if I was alone. And anyway, that kind of thing happened and went away. And then I noticed that I was becoming very isolated because of my pain, and I didn't really know how to handle being around people if I couldn't tell. If they didn't know that I was in pain. I didn't like the fact that people started to think that I was always grumpy, always angry with them, but I wasn't. I just couldn't. I was trying so hard to hide my pain that I forgot how to socialise, and it was very mentally taxing having to study for my GCSEs, having to go to class every day 5 days a week, having to hide my pain, having to socialise, having to act like everything was okay. And it was difficult, and I don't know how I did it, because back then I wasn't good at hiding my pain, and that took a lot of energy out of me. And so eventually that kind of became easier, but I was depressed because I wasn't myself. I wasn't able to relax and have fun because I couldn't tell how people were going to react if they knew that I was in that much pain and things like that. And so that kind of was its own situation. But over time, as I was learning about my illnesses and finding out what was wrong with me, it became clear to me that I had something called an autoimmune disease, which, for those of you who don't know, it means that in layman's terms, my body is attacking itself. And I remember that was something that was very hard for me, because something that my body should be able to do, it wasn't doing, and my body was attacking itself and trying to destroy itself. And that, more than anything, was something that was so difficult for me. And the other thing that really told on me was that nobody knew that much about my conditions. Nobody knew if I was going to get better, when I was going to get better, if it would progress. And I remember a doctor telling me, I was asking these questions, I'm like, does anyone know what's going to happen? And a doctor said to me he couldn't tell me because he didn't know, and he didn't know if it was going to become terminal. And obviously now, knowing more about it, I know that it probably, and I can't say won't be because everything is relative, but it probably won't ever become terminal, and for that I am so thankful. But being 15, 16, 17 and a doctor saying that he didn't know if it would become terminal, that word was very scary to me, because I shouldn't be thinking about that. I was still a child, and I was learning how to drive, and had my whole life ahead of me, and they didn't know if the thing that was already so debilitating to me was ever going to become the thing that ended me. And as I said, thankfully, touch wood, that isn't what this is. That isn't at all what it is, but again, everything is relative. And for now, I am fine. But that was something that was very scary, and thinking about your own mortality is something that no one should think about at my age, or 30 years older than I was at the time. That's not something you ever want someone that you know to have to think about. And that was one of the hardest things, and that really did take a toll on my mental health for a very long time, that I felt so out of control and so dependent on everyone around me that I didn't know how to cope with it mentally. And yes, things are still going to be very different for me than the average person my age, the average 19, 20-year-old. I probably will never be able to live alone. I probably will never be able to go on holiday by myself. I don't go running or cycling for fun, because that's something I can't do, and even if I could, I don't think I would want to. But it is the thought that I will never have complete independence, and I think for some people that would be very, very difficult. But thankfully for me, I can see the silver lining that I will always have company. I will hopefully never be lonely, and I have been given these other resources to help advocate for those who can't, because for a very long time I couldn't advocate for myself, but now I'm able to, and I will only ever think back to those times and think how low I was and how far I've come. Because thinking about not knowing if in that moment, I honestly, in that moment when I felt like I was burning from the inside out, I think in that moment I honestly thought that that would be my last, because it was so frightening and so scary, and I hadn't been given the support or the tools to be able to help me through it, because I was still very new to how my body was and what was happening to me. And I can't imagine for anyone, like amputees and things like that, that have sudden onset things that changes their life permanently and drastically. I cannot understand how brave and how courageous they are, because that must be terrifying. And I have nothing but respect for them that are able to face a day like that, going from one extreme to the other, because it is a very mentally challenging thing as well. like chronic illness, disability, chronic pain, things like that, that it isn't just a physical thing. Like, I had blood tests done, and say you're supposed to have 10 units of serotonin, I only had 3 because my body wasn't producing enough anymore, because pain receptors inhibit serotonin production. And I didn't know that, so my body was already it wasn't able to give me that chemical happy, and then I myself wasn't able to be mentally happy because I was so frightened and so confused. And I guess the point of me sharing this with you guys is to try and show that it is okay to admit that you aren't okay, and that you could have the most perfect life and then have a disability, but you are still allowed to be unhappy, depressed, anxious, things like that, because it is a very taxing thing on your mind and your body, and that's okay. So I hope that my story helps you guys to understand that it is completely and utterly okay to not be perfect and not be everything that everyone else thinks you should be, because no one else other than you knows what you're going through. And yeah, I hope you guys remember that and are able to find joy in yourself or in the place that you're in. So, we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.